Have you ever caught yourself wondering, am I crossing a line I don't even see? It's a question most older men never dare to ask when they start getting close to a young woman. They think it's harmless, flattering even. But what if that invisible line you're stepping over is the very thing that destroys your dignity, your inner peace, and even your chance to build real love? In today's video, we're going to explore 10 timeless suggestions inspired by Marcus Aurelius, wisdom that every man should know before he ever dares to get involved with a younger woman. Before we dive deep, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, like the video, and make sure you watch to the very end. Because what we're about to reveal could change not just your dating life, but your entire understanding of yourself as a man. A man in his late 40s, let's call him Daniel. Daniel has built a life most would envy, a stable career, a decent reputation, and enough self-confidence that younger women occasionally admire. One evening at a mutual friends gathering, he meets Sarah, vibrant, playful, 23 years old. She laughs at his jokes, seems fascinated by his stories, and Daniel feels a spark he hasn't felt in years. But Daniel forgets something Marcus Aurelius once warned. Do nothing against your better judgment, even if all the world seems to urge you otherwise. And that's where the story truly begins. Because the trap isn't what happens between two people, it's what happens inside you. Let's talk about the 10 powerful suggestions Marcus Aurelius would whisper in your ear if he were standing beside you. 1. Don't mistake admiration for desire. Written as if it's part of Daniel's story, drawing viewers in by speaking directly to them, asking about their own memories, and making them feel like this isn't just about Daniel, but about their past too. Have you ever had someone look at you in a way that made your heart skip, and for a fleeting second, you thought, maybe they feel it too? Let's go back to Daniel's story. Picture him, late 40s, silver starting to edge into his hair, but still carrying himself with quiet confidence. At a dinner party, he sees her, Sarah, 23, her laughter light as spring wind, eyes bright with curiosity, not cynicism. As the evening unfolds, Sarah leans in closer when Daniel speaks. She listens, really listens. She laughs at jokes he hasn't told in years. For a moment, Daniel feels seen, wanted, alive. Have you ever felt that? That electric moment when someone younger, newer to the world, looks at you not with boredom, but with genuine fascination. Your heart whispers, she must feel what I feel. She must want what I want. But here's the danger Marcus Aurelius warned of. A danger Daniel never saw. How ridiculous and how strange to be surprised at anything which happens in life. It isn't strange that Sarah admired him. It isn't strange that Daniel felt drawn to that admiration. But what is dangerous is to mistake admiration for desire. See, Sarah wasn't flirting. Not in the way Daniel thought. She admired the way he spoke calmly when others grew loud. She respected the wisdom age had given him, the stories that made the room go quiet. In her eyes, he was a guide, maybe even a role model. But Daniel, like so many men haunted by quiet nights and fading youth, read something more into her glance. Her laugh, her curiosity. He didn't ask himself the hardest question. Was it him she wanted or what he represented? And I want you, yes, you watching this video, to pause and ask yourself, think back to your first love or even your last heartbreak. Was there ever a moment when you wanted someone not because of who they were, but because of what they made you feel? Safe, young, interesting, desired. It happens to all of us. But when an older man sees a young woman's attention as romantic interest, the story often turns bitter. Because the truth is, admiration is a gift and a fragile, beautiful thing. But once you demand more than it's meant to give, it breaks. Daniel's mistake wasn't falling for Sarah. His mistake was building hope on a foundation that was never meant to hold it. Marcus Aurelius would have whispered to him, accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. For what could more aptly fit your needs? Sarah's admiration could have been a chance for Daniel to mentor, guide, and leave a mark on her life that lasted far longer than romance. But by misreading it as desire, he risked becoming just another man who took rather than gave. So before we move on, ask yourself honestly, have you ever mistaken admiration for desire? And what did it cost you, or what might it cost you if you don't? See it clearly next time. 2. Never trade dignity for desire. This continues Daniel's story, pulls the viewer in by speaking directly to them, asking them to reflect on their own past loves, and shows why Marcus Aurelius's advice matters not just to Daniel, but to them. Have you ever wanted someone so badly that you felt yourself bending, shrinking, even betraying your own values and just for a single moment of closeness? Let's step back into Daniel's story. After that dinner party, he couldn't get Sarah out of his mind. Her laughter replayed in his head late at night, in the quiet moments when the house felt too empty, when the ticking of the clock sounded louder than his own heartbeat. He caught himself checking his phone, hoping for a message. He even started dressing younger, buying shirts he thought she'd find stylish, using words that didn't belong to him. All of it. Little betrayals of the man he had worked decades to become. And here's where Marcus Aurelius would have warned him. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. To live, truly live, is to remain whole within yourself. To hold your dignity like a flame you refuse to let the wind snuff out. But desire, raw, hungry desire, has a dangerous power. It makes even the strongest man forget who he is. And now I want to ask you, yes, you watching this right now,
Have you ever felt that temptation?
to hide parts of who you really are, just to keep someone interested? To lower your standards, to tolerate disrespect, or even laugh at jokes that cut a little too close, because you feared losing them? Desire whispers, if you change just a little, they'll stay. But what it really does is chip away at the very thing that made you worth loving. In the first place, your dignity. In Daniel's case, he started doing small things, replying instantly to every message, agreeing with opinions he didn't share, letting his own routine slip just to make himself more available. He stopped leading. He started chasing, and the tragic irony, the more he chased, the less Sarah respected him. Because whether we admit it or not, people, especially those younger and searching for guidance, can sense when a man has become unmoored from himself. Marcus Aurelius would say, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Desire might feel urgent, but it should never feel desperate. A man's strength isn't measured by how many hearts he can capture, but by how he refuses to lose himself, even in love. So think back, my friend. When was the last time you traded a piece of your dignity just to keep someone close? Did it work? Or did it leave you feeling emptier than before? Daniel's story is a mirror, not just for older men loving younger women, but for anyone who's ever loved so fiercely they forgot to love themselves. And as we move forward, remember this truth from Marcus Aurelius. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. First, lead with mentorship, not seduction. This keeps building Daniel's story, keeps viewers emotionally invested, and draws them in by asking about their own experiences, all while grounding it in Marcus Aurelius' timeless wisdom. Now let me ask you a question you might not have asked yourself before. When you see someone young, bright, and full of life looking at you with admiration, do you feel the pull to guide them, or the temptation to win them? Daniel, standing in front of his bathroom mirror late at night, wrestled with that very question. He saw the worry lines on his face, the gray creeping into his hair. But he also saw something else, a man who had lived, failed, learned, and grown. Sarah had sent him a message earlier that day. Thank you. I really love talking to you. You make me feel safe. Reading those words, Daniel felt two impulses rise within him. The first was pure, steady, to keep being her anchor, her mentor, to help her navigate the chaos of her 20s, to share what life had taught him, expecting nothing in return. But the second was subtle and darker, to draw her closer, to make her feel something deeper, something romantic, because deep down he missed being desired, not just respected. And that's where Marcus Aurelius' wisdom stood between the two paths. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Because there's something powerful and even sacred in an older man's choice to guide instead of seduce. It means choosing to give her strength rather than stealing her innocence. It means leaving her story better, not burdened. Think about it. Have you ever had someone older in your life, maybe a teacher, an uncle, a boss, and who believed in you, supported you without asking for anything more? How did that shape your trust in the world? Now flip it. Have you ever trusted someone, only to feel later that their kindness came with an invisible price tag? That realization can crush something beautiful inside a young person's heart. The ability to trust older, wiser people without fear. Daniel stood at that crossroads. He could use his experience, his calm confidence, to gently blur the lines, to make Sarah see him not as a guide, but as a man she might love. Or he could protect her from his own loneliness and choose the harder path, mentorship. Marcus Aurelius might have whispered to him, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. In a world full of men who take, be the man who gives, not attention in exchange for affection, not guidance in exchange for desire, but wisdom given freely, because you remember what it felt like to be young and lost." Ask yourself, my friend, what would mean more to you in the end? Being remembered as the older man who conquered her heart, or the one who helped her find her own? True mentorship isn't cold or distant. It's deeply human. It listens, it supports, it celebrates without demanding. And ironically, it's often the men who refuse to chase, who stand firm in their integrity, who become the most powerfully attractive figures in a young woman's life. So as Daniel took a deep breath, he decided he would not let desire twist what could be a beautiful chapter. He would lead, not seduce. And in doing so, he would remain the man Sarah truly admired in the first place. Foreguard your intentions. It continues Daniel's story, speaks directly to viewers, and invites them to reflect on their own hidden motives, all while rooting it in Marcus Aurelius' philosophy. Now let me ask you something deeply personal. When you're drawn to someone, especially someone younger, do you ever stop and truly ask yourself why? Daniel didn't at first. After deciding to just be a mentor, he felt proud, noble even. But late at night, staring at the quiet ceiling, a quieter voice inside him whispered, "Is this really about helping her? Or is this about you needing to feel alive again?" You see, intentions can hide behind beautiful masks. I just want to help her. I'm only being friendly. I'm protecting her from mistakes. But if you peel those words back, sometimes what you find isn't kindness. It's fear, loneliness, or a craving for validation. Marcus Aurelius taught, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are selfish, your actions, and no matter how noble they look, become selfish too. Daniel began to notice the small signs. The quick rush of excitement when Sarah messaged late at night. The quiet disappointment when she didn't. The way he felt younger, more alive, when he imagined she might see him as more than a mentor. Have you ever felt something like that? Think back to your own story. Was there a moment when your intentions felt pure on the surface? But somewhere deeper there was a hidden wish, to be desired, to be needed, to be chosen. And it's not something to be ashamed of. It's deeply human. But Marcus Aurelius would say, don't look away from it. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth. When you look honestly at your intentions, two things can happen. One, you may discover that your motives are mixed, and that's okay. The key is not to act on the selfish part. Or you may find that your desire to help is genuine, and then you can help freely, without hidden expectations. For Daniel, that meant asking himself hard questions. Am I helping Sarah because I truly care? Or do I secretly hope she'll see me as someone special, someone irreplaceable? If the answer was the second, then his actions, even the kindest words, risked becoming manipulative. Because wanting something in return turns kindness into a transaction. Think about this. When someone helps you, and you later discover they did it to get something, doesn't it feel like betrayal? So, Daniel decided to guard his intentions like a gardener guards young plants from weeds. Every time he felt the temptation to hope for more, he reminded himself, she doesn't owe me affection. She doesn't owe me attention. My role is to give, not to take. And by guarding his intentions, Daniel protected both himself and Sarah from a story that could end in regret. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom isn't about denying desire. It's about not letting desire twist what could have been something pure. So my friend, before we move on, look inward. Ask yourself, why do I want what I want? It's the hardest question a man can ask, but also the one that can save him from his greatest mistakes. 5. Never use experience as leverage. This keeps Daniel's story alive, asks viewers reflective questions, and connects deeply to Marcus Aurelius' philosophy, showing how even wisdom can be turned into a subtle weapon if we're not careful. Let me ask you something you may never have been asked before. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, she'll see it my way, because I know better? That's where Daniel found himself next. And it's a trap far subtler, yet more dangerous than raw desire. After weeks of late-night conversations, Daniel felt his bond with Sarah deepen. She shared secrets she hadn't told anyone, asked him for advice about work, family, even love. In those moments, Daniel felt something more intoxicating than attraction. Power. Power that came not from manipulation, but from something much easier to justify, his experience. And here's where Marcus Aurelius would have whispered a warning. Daniel didn't fully hear. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice. Because even men with the kindest hearts can find themselves using what they know to shape, to guide, or, if they're not careful, to control. Have you ever done that? Maybe with someone younger, or less experienced, given advice, but deep down hoped they'd follow it because it was yours, not because it was right for them? Daniel started small, gently teasing Sarah's choices. Oh, you're still too young to understand that. Trust me, one day you'll see it my way. Each time he told himself it was harmless and even protective. But what it really did was place him above her, rather than beside her. And here's the quiet truth Marcus Aurelius teaches. To love only what happens, what was destined. No greater harmony. True harmony comes when your experience becomes a gift, not a lever. When you share what you've learned and let them choose what fits their own life. But Daniel, blinded by his affection and his fear of losing relevance, sometimes used his wisdom to win small victories, to make Sarah doubt her instincts, to keep her coming back to him for answers instead of finding her own. And while it didn't look like control on the surface, it carried the same poison underneath, taking her freedom to grow so he could feel needed. Have you ever seen that happen? A parent, a teacher, or an older partner, guiding someone until guidance turned into quiet domination? Daniel began to realize the cost. Sarah's laughter grew a little less free. She started second-guessing herself before speaking. She still admired him, but now, that admiration felt heavy, like a debt she couldn't repay. That's when Daniel remembered something Marcus Aurelius might have written for this very moment. If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not right, do not do it. Wisdom should liberate, not imprison. A man's experience isn't a crown to be worn above another's head, and it's a bridge offered so they can cross to somewhere better. So my friend, before we move on, ask yourself, when you share your wisdom, is it truly for them? Or is it partly for you and need to feel important, irreplaceable? Because even a kind heart can cast a long shadow if it forgets that every person, no matter how young, deserves the freedom to walk their own path. 6. Remember, time isn't your enemy, it's your proof. This keeps Daniel's story moving, gently invites viewers to reflect on their own relationship with aging, and uses Marcus Aurelius' wisdom to reframe time as a strength, not a curse. Let me ask you something quietly, almost as if we're speaking late at night over coffee. When you see the lines on your face or the gray in your hair, do you feel shame or pride? Daniel had spent weeks worrying about Sarah seeing him as too old. At the gym, he pushed himself harder than he had in years. At home, he tried new clothes, changed his hairstyle, even caught himself deleting photos that showed the quiet truth of his age. Underneath it all, his deepest fear wasn't just losing Sarah's interest, it was losing his own sense of worth in a world that worships youth. But here's where Marcus Aurelius would have offered Daniel a thought that cuts deeper than fear. Time is a river, a violent current. Soon all that is born will be carried away. Daniel realized something profound. Time wasn't stealing anything from him. It was proving something for him. Because every scar, every line, every story he carried wasn't a reason to be ashamed. It was proof of who he had become. And now let me ask you, have you ever looked at an older person who walked calmly, spoke slowly, smiled patiently and felt drawn to them, even if you couldn't say why? That quiet gravity doesn't come from chasing youth. It comes from accepting time as a companion, not an enemy. Daniel started noticing it himself. When he spoke about his mistakes, Sarah leaned in, not because he sounded young, but because he sounded real. When he admitted moments of weakness, she didn't see him as broken, she saw him as brave. Because here's the paradox. The more Daniel accepted his age, the less it mattered. And Marcus Aurelius would say, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." Daniel saw that strength wasn't in hiding his years. It was in carrying them openly. His age wasn't a flaw. It was the very thing that made him different from the countless young men chasing Sarah's attention. Have you ever felt that deep down? That quiet power of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need to pretend? So Daniel stopped running. He let himself be older, and something changed. Sarah's respect grew deeper. Their conversations grew richer. And most importantly, Daniel's own self-respect returned. Because time, Daniel realized, wasn't erasing his worth. It was writing it. Every year was a page in the story of a man who had lived, learned, and endured. And you watching this? What if the very things you hide, your years, your mistakes, your scars, and are the truest proof that you've lived? Marcus Aurelius teaches us that real strength isn't youth preserved, it's character revealed. 7. Resist the temptation to rewrite your past. This keeps Daniel's story alive, draws viewers in by asking about their past regrets, and gently shows why Marcus Aurelius's wisdom teaches us to accept our scars rather than project them onto someone else. Let me ask you something tender, something we rarely admit even to ourselves. Have you ever met someone and felt, deep down, maybe with them, I can fix what went wrong before? That's where Daniel found himself next. By now, his bond with Sarah had grown warm and familiar. They shared secrets, stories, and slowly, Daniel's conversations shifted from guiding her present to quietly rewriting his past. Years ago, Daniel had loved deeply and lost. Words left unsaid, mistakes made out of pride, nights haunted by if only. And then Sarah came along, young, trusting, open-hearted. In her eyes, Daniel saw a chance not just to guide her, but to heal himself. To say the things he never said before. To do it right this time. But Marcus Aurelius would have warned him with quiet clarity. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Daniel couldn't see it at first. What looked like love was really a wish to travel backward. To use Sarah as a living page where he could write the ending he always wanted. And now let me ask you, have you ever tried to fix your past by loving someone new? By hoping that this time, if you're patient enough, wiser enough, more careful, the ghost of what happened before will finally disappear. It's deeply human. But Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the past can't be undone, only understood, accepted, and transformed inside us. Daniel slowly saw the signs. He felt disappointed when Sarah made different choices than his ex had. He felt quietly hurt when she didn't react like the woman he'd lost. Without meaning to, he stopped seeing Sarah fully and started seeing a second chance. That's when he remembered another line Marcus might have whispered. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. To truly love someone is to see them, not the shadows of your past cast upon them. And that's the hard truth Daniel learned. Sarah didn't come into his life to heal old wounds. She wasn't a chapter 2 of a story that ended badly. She was a different book, entirely, and reading it honestly meant closing the old one first. Now think about your own story. Is there someone you've loved, or still loved because they feel like a chance to rewrite regret? What if, instead, you accepted your scars as proof you survived, not as stains to be removed? Daniel stepped back quietly but deliberately, not because he didn't care, but because he realized real love can't start where old pain still rules the heart. And so, he chose to heal himself, by himself, before trying to give love to someone else. Respect her story. Don't become its villain. This continues Daniel's journey, gently invites viewers to think about their role in someone else's life story, and anchors the reflection in Marcus Aurelius's timeless philosophy. Let me ask you something few people ever pause to ask. When your chapter ends in someone else's life, how do you want them to remember you? Daniel, standing on his balcony late one night, finally dared to ask himself that question. By now, he'd accepted that he couldn't rewrite his past through Sarah. But in the quiet, another fear rose up. What if, despite everything, I still hurt her? Because the painful truth is this, even without meaning to, we can become the villain in someone else's story. Especially when there's a difference in age, experience, or power. Sarah was still writing the early chapters of her life. First heartbreaks, new careers, fragile hopes about love and trust. And Daniel realized his choices, even the small ones, could shape how she remembered men older than her, or even men in general. Marcus Aurelius, though centuries away from Daniel's world, left a lesson as clear as if he'd whispered it himself. So keep yourself simple, good, pure, serious, unpretentious, a friend of justice, strong for your proper work. And Daniel asked himself, is my proper work here to win, or is it to protect? Have you ever thought about that? When you enter someone's life, especially someone younger or more vulnerable, your presence becomes part of their story, and you don't get to choose how they remember it. Daniel remembered moments when he nearly crossed lines, jokes that blurred the mentor-student boundary, long late-night talks that fed his loneliness more than her growth, moments when he almost let his quiet longing become her silent burden. He realized Sarah deserved better than to look back years later and say, "He taught me, but he also hurt me." Because the truth is, admiration can turn to fear in an instant. Trust can sour into regret. A memory that could have been warm can become the very thing someone tries to forget. And here's the harder part. You don't always see it when it's happening. Which is why Marcus Aurelius taught not just to watch what you do, but to watch what drives what you do. To act from principle, not from impulse. Daniel chose, painfully but consciously, to step back just enough. He kept guiding Sarah, but he drew firmer boundaries. He stopped the flirty jokes, the late-night conversations, the subtle tests to see if she might want more. And in doing so, he protected not just his own dignity, but her story. Now I want you to ask yourself, in whose story are you a character right now? A partner, a mentor, a friend? And when your chapter ends, will they remember you as someone who left them lighter, wiser, or as someone who left a quiet scar? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Because in the end, it doesn't matter what story we wish to write. It matters what story they will tell. 9. Know your season. This continues Daniel's journey, gently invites viewers to reflect on the seasons of their own life, and uses Marcus Aurelius's philosophy to reveal why wisdom comes from acceptance, not denial. Let me ask you a question that might sound simple, but cuts deeper than most men dare to look. What season of your life are you in right now? And are you living it, or running from it? Daniel, after nights of reflection, realized he'd been running from autumn into spring, pretending that time hadn't moved forward. And when he met Sarah, he thought maybe, just maybe, she could be his bridge back to those warmer days. But Marcus Aurelius, through words written nearly 2,000 years ago, offered him a truth sharper than regret. Observe constantly that all things take place by change. The nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things, which are, and to make new things like them. Daniel sat in the quiet of his study, old photos spread across his desk. His 20s, reckless but alive. His 30s, driven and determined. And now, in his late 40s, he saw a man who had softened, not because he was weaker, but because he had learned what really matters. And that's when it dawned on him. Every season brings its own gift. Spring brings passion, summer brings power, autumn brings perspective, winter brings peace. But the tragedy for so many men is trying to plant spring's wildflowers in autumn's soil. They chase youth, thinking it proves they're still alive, when true life is found in embracing the season you're in. Now let me turn to you. What season are you in? Are you fighting it, denying it, or honoring it? Daniel realized Sarah wasn't meant to pull him back into spring. She was an invitation to be an autumn man, wiser, calmer, rooted, able to give without needing to take. He saw that it wasn't his age that risked harming Sarah, it was his refusal to act his age. A man at peace with his season becomes a safe place. A man denying it becomes dangerous even to those he loves. Marcus Aurelius would remind him, receive without pride, let go without attachment. To receive admiration gratefully, to let go of desire gracefully. And Daniel understood. The most attractive thing about an older man isn't pretending to be young. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows he isn't. So let me ask you gently, are you trying to write a story meant for a season that has already passed? What would happen if, instead, you fully lived the chapter you're in now? Because each season has a beauty the last could never offer. And when you stop running, you might discover you are exactly where you were always meant to be. Daniel chose to walk his autumn path, not backward into spring, but forward, with grace, with dignity, and with a kind of love that only a man who knows his season can offer. 10. Let your love purify you, not poison you. This closes Daniel's journey, speaks directly to the viewer, and uses Marcus Aurelius's philosophy to show how true love should elevate who we are, never degrade it. Now, let me ask you something that many men never pause to ask until it's too late. Does your love make you a better man? Or does it quietly turn you into someone you promised you'd never become? After months of reflection, late-night doubts, and hard questions, Daniel found himself facing this final truth. He had watched his feelings for Sarah shift like shadows at dusk, from admiration to desire to temptation. and finally to self-awareness. But here's what haunted him most. If my love for her changes me, is it making me truer, or is it making me smaller? Marcus Aurelius would have answered quietly, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, because true love in its highest form doesn't corrupt your thoughts. It purifies them. It doesn't drag your character downward into jealousy, fear, or manipulation. It lifts it upward into patience, honesty, and kindness. Daniel remembered moments when he almost let love become poison. Moments when he considered playing games to keep Sarah interested. Moments when he nearly hid parts of his past to appear stronger. Moments when desire whispered that bending his principles, just this once, would be harmless. But each time something deeper pushed back. The part of him that still remembered what it meant to love purely, not to possess, but to protect. And now let me turn to you. Has love ever pushed you closer to the man you want to be? Or has it pulled you away? Because that's the real test. Not whether they love you back. Not whether it lasts forever. But whether you can look in the mirror and say, I became more patient, more honest, more gentle. My love refined my spirit, it did not rot it. Daniel, with time, understood this quiet truth. He didn't need to own Sarah's love to let it change him. It was enough that knowing her challenged him to question his ego, to face his loneliness, rather than bury it in someone else's youth, to stand firm in his values rather than trade them for affection. Marcus Aurelius taught, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Daniel chose thoughts of kindness over conquest, patience over possession, and in doing so, his love became something that purified him, made him lighter, freer, and paradoxically stronger. So ask yourself now honestly, does the way you love make your soul brighter or darker? Does it free the best parts of you or chain you to the worst? Because in the end, true love isn't proven by winning someone's heart. It's proven by what it does to yours. Daniel never stopped caring for Sarah, but he stopped needing her love to validate his worth. And that quiet transformation, from needing to giving, from clinging to releasing, was the proof that his love had purified him, not poisoned him. And maybe, my friend, that's what Marcus Aurelius wanted us to see all along. That the only love worth keeping is the love that keeps you closer to the man you were meant to be. Closing story and reflection. Daniel once thought chasing Sarah would make him feel alive, because sometimes a single moment of reflection can save years of regret. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.